Oh, all right, it says we're live on Facebook.
Cool. We are locked and loaded. So let her rip.
All right, everybody, welcome to Freeology Friday. I'm Aaron Tomlinson with my good friend, my brother.
I'm Derek Day.
Enough stuff good about Derek Day. Good to be with you, brother.
Good to be with you too, Aaron. Always. And
Yeah.
once again, our audience thing is was scrambled up. I just fixed that. So now we're live to everybody.
Right on.
All right.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, y'all.
I'm going to adjust something real quick here. So I've got Merlot tonight. McNabb. I've never tried it. So
I've got Scotch, a fresh bottle of Glenlivet.
I almost got Maker's Mark, but I decided it was a wine kind of evening.
And I want to do a quick shout out, a toast to my niece Chantel, who bought me these cool glasses, which
Sweet.
you can't see it, but it's got my monogram on it. She had it etched.
That is nice.
Yeah. So
right on, Chantel.
Yeah. So she's that's Sandra's daughter, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
My sister. Yeah. Yeah. She hooked the brother up. And I'm trying to find
about trying new wine,
Yeah, we got a bumper crop of new reds, and so I need to break some of those out and try them, but I haven't done it yet. But I was in the mood for something a little bit stronger today because it's been a week.
Yeah, this is a 2010, kind of tannin-y.
Okay.
We'll enjoy it anyway. So, all right. So, I picked the topic tonight, and I have to credit. I think it was Chris Kratzer on Facebook put a post up.
I love Chris Kratzer. Chris Kratzer. Yeah.
Yeah. He put a post up about a month ago where it's about the term deconstruction, and just so people understand, I've fought for that term deconstruction because, and for anybody that's watching that doesn't know what we're talking about having your beliefs deconstructed.
Yep.
Specifically in regards to religion or faith.
Yep.
And I was adamant it was deconstruction, Derek, because I think what people don't realize, we live inside of stories, whether we realize it or not. We tell ourselves stories. We play characters inside our heads, at least. And religion gives you a great story, right? You understand the cosmos. You come from God. You're on a mission from God. You know who the bad guys are. You know who the good guys are. You're one of the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
You have purpose. You have meaning, especially if you're in ministry like we are, right? You're making a difference for the Lord. All this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you start to question. You start to get challenged. Start to get older, maybe a little less cocky and full of yourself, at least in my case. And for me, it was total deconstruction because it was not just like giving up belief in Santa Claus. It was my entire identity and worldview took a tumble, right?
Yeah. So
metaphorically, there were times I felt like I was sitting there looking at a pile of bricks in my life saying, what do I do now? How do I put this back together?
Yeah.
And then I came across Chris's post, and he says, deconstruction is a misnomer. It's misnamed. Because here's the real deconstruction. He said, religion deconstructed you. Religion deconstructed you. Religion deconstructed your sense of self, your trust in yourself, your place in the world, your sense of self. It totally stripped you of that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit here at first. And I thought, damn it, he's right. He's right. Because here's the thing. Now, not everybody's going to relate to this, but if you were in fundamentalism, evangelicalism, charismatic Christianity, Catholicism, anything that based its foundation on you're not good enough, you're not enough, anything that starts with original sin, born in sin, you need to be saved. And the idea of original sin is that you can't even pursue God on your own. Nothing that you do good. Your righteousness is as filthy rags. Remember that?
Yep.
Your heart is deceitful and wicked above all things. Who can know it? So let's just look at this from the sense of trust. And we talked about this a while back. that trust is so important in those early stages. In fact, according to Erik Erikson, the great, pioneer of modern psychology,
Mhm.
he said the first thing that a child has to develop in the first 2 years, their crisis is trust versus mistrust.
Yep.
Because when you're a baby, you're dependent on everybody to meet your needs.
Yep.
And if your needs get met, you develop a sense of trust in the world and in people. If your needs don't get met, you develop a sense of distrust.
Mhm.
And then you progress, according to Erikson, through other stages of development. And Erikson would say, whatever stage you get stunted at, you can't go past go and collect $200. You have to go back
Mm.
and deal with that stage before you can progress into a
Okay.
healthy person, psychologically, spiritually, on every level. So let's look at the issue of trust. So you start out with you're corrupt, your heart, you're just totally corrupt. You're rotten to the core. You're born in
Yep.
sin, and God, your creator, wants
Wretched.
nothing to do with you.
Yep.
That's a deconstruction.
Mm.
You can't trust your body because it's the flesh. So anything that comes from your flesh is naturally evil.
Yep.
Even evolutionary drives like self-defense
Mm.
and sex
Yeah.
are evil.
Yeah.
So you can't trust your body. Your heart is deceitful and wicked above all things. Who can know it?
Right.
So you can't trust your
Can't
emotions.
trust your emotions. Yeah.
Can't trust what's coming from in here. But then the mind can also be corrupted, right? Because you have a carnal mind. You have the carnal mind is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be. And people have told me through this deconstruction process, the Christian friends that still will have anything to do with me and engage me say, well, you're just mental. You're all mental. You're just taking it apart with your mind. And you're just listening to the mind of men, which takes us to the next phase. You can't trust other human beings because if you're corrupt,
Yeah.
they're corrupt.
Exactly.
So now we start deconstructing your relationships. So first we deconstruct your entire sense of self. You can't trust your body, can't trust your heart, can't trust your mind. If you're corrupt, other people are corrupt, and they're fools in the sight of God. A fool says in his heart there is no God. And so now you can't trust science, you can't trust experts, you can't trust other people. Now you want to be in the world, Derek, but not of the world. If anybody loves the world, the love of God is not in him.
Right. Right.
And the planet is fallen, the planet is corrupt.
Yeah.
So you can't trust nature, you can't trust the
Oh
planet,
my God.
you can't trust the world, you can't trust science, you can't trust your own mind, you can't trust your own heart, you can't trust your body. So what's left? Well, the spirit dimension, right? And the
God.
Bible. You can trust the
Right.
Bible, you can trust the Bible, you can trust the spirit dimension, and you can trust your elders in the faith.
The preacher.
But let's say you start seriously engaging with spiritual realities. Well, the Bible says that Satan himself disguises himself as an angel of light.
Mhm.
So if you encounter through a dream or a vision, some kind of supernatural encounter, you can't trust that unless it shows up like a carpenter from Nazareth.
Yeah.
That we can trust.
White Jesus.
Yes, white Jesus. We can trust white Jesus. We can trust the Holy Spirit, but how the hell the Holy Spirit speaks to us without communicating somehow with our mind or our heart, which we can't trust, I've
Right.
never been able to figure out. So what are you left with? You have been deconstructed from your power. You don't have sovereignty. You've got to give yourself in obedience to this being that you've never seen.
Wow.
You got to trust a book that doesn't stand up to intellectual scrutiny. And if you start looking at it through critical thinking, now you're trusting your mind.
Yep.
So here's the crazy thing: the Christian faith teaches faith, it teaches trust, but it teaches distrust. It's really kind of an oxymoron if you think about it.
Yeah.
Trust the church, trust the Bible, trust the 8 people that wrote the New Testament. 8 people, Derek, think about this. 8
Yep.
people from 2,000 years ago gave you this book. Trust that. Yeah, but what about these contradictions and inconsistencies? Oh, don't go there, brother. You can't trust unity, especially if you're into the end times bullshit. You can't trust
Yep.
unity because that's going to be the great falling away. That's going to
Yep.
be. So cheers to Chris Kratzer out there,
Chris, my man.
because he reframed it for me. I was like, he's right. Religion deconstructs you.
So in reality, then, by Chris's summary, we start off deconstructed.
Exactly.
I mean, and this really sits everything on its ear. And I wrote this book called Deconstructing Religion. And now I'm listening to this and I'm like, holy fuck. I got to go back and I got to rewrite this, because you're not deconstructing anything. This has all deconstructed you.
Yes.
Reduced you to something less than what you actually are.
Yes.
And convinced you that you are wretched, that you are unworthy, that you are dirty, that you are unclean, that all of these things. And how can you possibly function from a foundation of dysfunction?
You can't.
Gee whiz.
You can't. And so what I would like to, talk about and postulate is this whole process is not deconstruction. It's actually reconstruction. It's reconstructing the self. It's reconstructing reality. It's reclaiming your power. It's reclaiming your sovereignty. It's taking your life back.
Yeah.
Like
how about that, man? Let's stop and talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Taking your life back, because this is the thing that, we were taught as Christians, that in order for us to gain our life, we must lose it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to give up anything that's remotely like ourselves for this Christ-like ideal that, number one, comes from a book whose accuracy is debatable.
Right.
And from a religious standpoint that can't stand up to scrutiny, and that it doesn't measure up to base logic.
Right.
So how do you, how can you actually live a functional, productive life when you've been stripped down to nothing? I mean, it's like taking a car that's been fully assembled from the factory and then taking the wheels and tires and the engine out of it and say, here, go drive this.
Yes. And then you're frustrated because you can't get it out of park.
Yeah.
And then they come along and say, well, brother, you just got to trust God.
Trust God.
You got to trust the factory. I mean, it's so backwards. If God made me, God created you. God created you, and God doesn't make junk. But your heart's evil, your mind's evil, your body's evil, your desires are evil.
Yeah.
And you can't trust anything in this world.
But wait a second. I want to take the Bible humpers back to something, right? I said Bible humpers. Yeah. Back to Genesis, right? And in the Genesis account, God creates, the heaven and the earth. He creates light from darkness, and he creates the earth and all the plants and all the land and all the water and all of that. And he says, all of that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Then he makes a copy of him or herself,
mm-hmm.
and says, now hold on for a second, fellas. Everything else was good. This is very good. Right? Yeah. Now, here's what's interesting about that is that I never found anything in the Bible that disputed that. Now, I mean, when we talk about what God says, because the Genesis account, it says, and God said, and God said, and God said. But then when we get to the tongue is wicked, the heart is wicked, the mind is wicked, the flesh is wicked. All of these things were men interpreting for God.
Yeah.
But we have God saying, right? Mm-hmm. Now, again, if we're holding on to this hermeneutic, right?
Right.
That God said, very good. And at no point at no point, and I went back and man, I've searched the scriptures like nobody's business. I searched it in every in the King James version, in the Amplified, in the ESV, in the NIV, in the
Mhm.
NRV, in the ASV. I've searched it all through those. I've gone through the Latin Bible. I've gone through the Hebrew Bible. I've parsed the text in the original Greek and Hebrew. I've never gone to Aramaic, but I have a friend from Syria
Mm.
who came from a family of priests, and he speaks Aramaic. So
Mhm.
when I hit the difficult parts there, I give him a call
That's
and I
not
say,
bad.
"Hey, Syed, you know, and work this out, right?" So here's the thing. I'm looking for the point where God said any of this was fucked up, and I can't find it.
Right.
So when I what you're saying, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but what we've been calling deconstruction all this time is not deconstruction at all. We've been reconstructing. We've been
Exactly.
rebuilding.
Yeah.
We've been finding our original build sheet and going back and building ourselves from that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Who we? Yeah, my sister said Bible humpers. Yeah, I said that, sis. Because I've said this before that the theology is just spiritual masturbation. I stick by that.
Mhm.
There is nothing advancing, promoting, growing, or anything that comes out of theology. It just isn't there. Uh,
It's doing the opposite. So I've said, religion offers you the cure for the disease that it gave you or the disease that it convinced you that you had.
yeah, yep, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. And theology is the method
Mm.
by which religion administers both its cancer and its cure. It was funny because on my public page I posted something today, and this guy responded. He says, "Well, why shouldn't somebody who has the cure to cancer tell the world about the cure to cancer?" And I said, "Well, the problem is that what you call the cure to cancer is actually the cause of cancer.
Ooh.
So you are promoting the cause as the cure, and that's what religion does. So man, again, a big shout out and toast to Chris Kratzer, because this is eye opening, Aaron. And when we talked about this offline, I said, well, this is going to be cool. I said, because anytime you really get excited about something, I get excited about it because I know it's going to be on and popping. And I had no idea, but this shakes even my paradigm.
Yeah, it shook mine too, Derek. But to me, it's so accurate. And the one thing it does is it puts a positive spin on this. I think, let's just be honest. Christian religion, as we know it today,
Mhm.
in its, and I can hear people arguing with me, so that's why I'm choosing my words carefully here.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
in its predominant form, let's call it that way, it's shame based.
it is.
It's 100% shame based and uses shame to control you, right?
Yep.
And so when you start what we used to call deconstructing with your book, and it's like it just depends on how you view it, right?
Yep.
Because if your whole life is invested in something and you take that apart, you are deconstructing from that perspective.
Yep.
But when you start doing that, the shame mongers come out. And I see it on your page. Like I've been a lot less active on Facebook, partly because I've been busy
Yep.
and partly just because I just haven't been up for it lately. And I know you've gone through phases like that too. But how come the shame mongers? And I've seen it on your page, you really are, like you posted something about Satanist or something, and somebody came at you, well, you really are a Satanist and you've just
Yeah.
been deceived and blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know about you, Derek, but I think I got into this position of having to apologize and explain why I was disappointing people because I was no longer who they expected me to be in hopes that they would understand. But that's coming at it from this sort of shame-based position that religion put me in the first place. So subtly, subconsciously,
Hmm.
I'm still buying into the system. And so what this did for me was it was like, no, damn it, I am not deconstructing. I am reclaiming. This is a reclamation
Exactly.
project. This is a restoration
Thank
project.
you.
I
Thank
am
you.
not deconstructing. I am restoring what you guys deconstructed because you didn't vet your information enough before you gave it to me when I was a child and as a young man.
Well, wait a second. Let me stop you there because
Yeah.
they did vet the information, and that's the fucked up part of this.
Okay, elaborate on that for me.
Well, because they know listen, the people who I say this all the time, there are two types of errors. There are errors of omission. In other words, you don't know, right? You don't have full information, and so you go off half-cocked and you say something that doesn't make sense, right? But then there are errors of commission. An error
Yeah.
of commission means you know this is fucked up. You know it. You vetted it. You've reverse engineered it for yourself. And yet, and still, you go along with the game because there is something that profits you by doing it. And that's the way a lot of the churches work because this is how they keep their populations under control.
You're right.
So it's like, no, I'm not giving a hall pass to say, well, no, you didn't know, you didn't vet this. No, bullshit. Most of them, I'm going to say this, Aaron, most of them vetted. Most of them know better.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to go so far as to say you cannot have a master's in theology
No, you're right.
and not know how fucked up this really is. At that point, you go to undergrad, a bachelor's in divinity or biblical studies, you might be worthy of a hall pass at that point. But once you get to an MDiv or a THD, oh no, dog, you fully vetted this, but you are invested in it because there is something in this that benefits you.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely 100% right about that. My problem is I went to a charismatic Bible college. I went to one of those Bible colleges that was started in a church. And I just, I wasn't wise to these things for a lot of different reasons when I was 19, 20, 21, however old I was.
Mhm.
But their accreditation is a bunch of like-minded groups got together and said, hey, this is another way to make money under the guise of discipleship.
Yep.
And so we'll say it's accredited, but I didn't know there was a difference. I didn't know there was a difference. And I should have known because of the family I came from. I should have known. But I did not know there was a difference then between being regionally accredited, like a legitimate institution of learning, and we just created our own organization and called it accredited to fool you.
Yep.
Organization.
Yep.
But
That's
yeah,
it.
you're absolutely right. One of the things when I was going through this process, I had friends that were going to some of the top seminaries in the world, and I would dialogue with them once a month or whatever, and I would come up with something that I thought was a radical, like, gosh, could this be right? Because when you're in this process, because I put myself in an echo chamber.
Mm.
Everybody around me thought like me, preached like me, believed
Yep.
like me. And it was all I'd known. And then I started digging more into it, doing some of my own research, even getting some of my own insights, not reading books or Bible scholars, but getting my own, and just looking at the same way, this isn't right, And I got to tell you, I'm just going to be honest and transparent and vulnerable. I was so deconstructed because I was coming out of really some significant trauma when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. And I had a lot of daddy issues. And so I get into this group that talks about spiritual fathering and all this stuff. And I didn't pass some of those phases that Erickson talked about, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is, where you're establishing your sense of identity. So in your teenage years, It's all about your identity and your sexuality. You're figuring those things out. Well, so I'm trying to figure those things out. And I got, a lot of trauma, a lot of daddy issues, and I find a home. Now, see, here's the thing, and I don't want to diss on my parents. I love my parents.
Yep.
I love my parents, and I'm thankful from the bottom of my heart for everything they did for me that was good and holy and helpful and healing and healthy. But there was a lot of stuff. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic. There was some domestic violence in my home. There was a lot of arguing in my home. My dad was a control freak. So I was pretty beat down. And then we went through some family trauma where my dad had a business, had a lot of money, and lost it literally overnight.
Wow.
And there was a lot of public shame and disgrace. So I had a lot of shame. And my mom used shame to try to motivate me to get better grades and to do all this stuff. So I had this stuff in me. So here's the thing, Derek. When I showed up at a holiness church, it felt like home. When they told me, Dad's gonna, your heavenly daddy is gonna be pissed off if you don't do things right.
Yeah.
Well, sure, that's exactly what I know. And so, I found this through as I was working through this ministry thing. People would preach, the strong word, and they come up, boy, I love it when you step on my toes. And I realized these people, and I remember I went to a meeting. I won't say who the preacher was, just because. And he's just beating the hell out of the congregation. And they are standing up and they are amen, and they are cheering and they are shouting. And I looked around and I said, this is just like home.
Yeah.
It's just like home.
Look
And
here.
so-
One time I was at a revival and this guy preached, and he preached sin like I had never heard it like that. Everybody in the place was wrecked because they felt like they didn't measure up. And you know what? All the preachers that were on the rostrum, they said, Doc, you pulled out the belt on that one. That's what they said.
Yeah, and they loved it.
And they loved it. It was like everybody got their ass whooped that night, and everybody was good with it, except me. I was like, God, I'm thinking to myself, I said, holy fuck, this is awful.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that out there.
No, I think that's the dynamic that goes on in those places. And I kind of lost, I got lost in my thoughts there and forgot the original point I was trying to make. But, at the end of the day, here's what happened to me. There were things in my heart that didn't feel right. There were things in my heart when I would look at them and I would think, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just. That doesn't feel right. That makes me feel sick inside. And I learned to mistake that sick feeling for the conviction of the Holy Spirit. And I would go to my elders, and because I had daddy issues, I would not trust myself. I would trust my elders.
Yeah.
And so I was a good soldier. I had a friend when I was starting this process. I had a friend. We were walking on Venice Beach, and he was talking to me about gender energy, not gender like we think about it, but that there's masculine energy and there's feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the church emasculates you because the church thrives on feminine energy. And here's what he meant by that. The only person allowed to express masculine energy in most churches and church organizations and groups is the guy or guys at the top. They want everybody else, even the men, to clean toilets, to be servants. Now, I'm not equating cleaning toilets with women's work. I'm not doing that. When I'm talking about feminine energy, I'm talking about the energy that comes along to support, to nurture. If you think just about sexuality, a man puts seed inside of a woman, and then the woman carries what the man has given her. Mm-hmm. So therefore, here's what you hear. My vision is the vision that counts. You need to get behind my vision. That's my seed. You're supposed to be the womb that carries and supports my vision, right? As long as you're keeping the place clean, so we have a nice place to go, as long as you're welcoming anybody, as long as you don't question, as long as you receive the seed and carry it and give birth to what I'm trying to give birth to here, which is the biggest church in town or whatever, then you're good. So what happens is that that men in the church become entirely emasculated, and women cannot express their masculine energy because
Mm,
women have masculine energy too, right? So if
yep.
a woman expresses her masculine energy, we label her a Jezebel. If a guy
Ooh.
exercises his masculine energy, meaning I want to initiate something, I have an idea here, I want to have my own vision and purpose and
Hmm.
whatever, I want to have
Hmm.
some independence here, right? I want to penetrate an environment in order to bring change. If a woman does that, she's a Jezebel and doesn't know her place and needs to get under her covering. If a
Right.
man does that, he's in rebellion, and rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft. And so now you're messing it with demons. And so we emasculate the
Man.
entire congregation and expect them to be only the receivers and the carriers and the reproducers of what we think needs to be the change that occurs in the world or the change that occurs in your life. So then when you go to those people for counsel, you may have something in your heart. You may have something that you feel God is telling you to do or whatever, but if it doesn't measure up to them, and the standard they're using is, how is this going to advance me? How is this going to advance my ministry? How is this
Hmm.
going to advance my vision? So if you have any masculine energy, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
If you have any masculine energy, oh, we can't have that because now we got too many roosters in the hen pen.
Yep.
And they
And
might, and the hens might decide that you're a better rooster than me, and we can't have that. So no, brother, I think you really need to pray about that. I don't. Do you really think that's wisdom? And no, I don't think that's God. And we're taught to submit. So we submit
yep.
our own opinions, our own ideas, our own life. We give up our lives, Derek. We give up our lives.
Yeah.
People in the church, they give up their lives. A woman is in a bad relationship with an abusive male, and she goes to her pastor for counseling because he's free, first of
Right.
all, and
Hmm.
because he's held in high esteem, right?
Yep.
And we're taught not to trust, don't trust counseling, don't trust psychology. That's men. That's just the voice of men. That's
That's
that worldly
flesh.
stuff.
Worldly. Yeah.
And so she goes in and I've counseled women. Well, if you were better in bed, your husband wouldn't be cheating on you. Let me tell you a story. When I first got into ministry, there was a woman, a pastor's wife in our town, incredibly anointed, way more anointed than her pastor was. In other words, she could deliver something that would energize and inspire and help people. The pastor, not so much. And she calls me up. I'm 9 months into ministry. She's 20 years older than me. And she says, my husband, or 15, whatever it was, she's my elder, someone I
Hmm.
looked up to. And she said, my husband right now is over at a woman's house in the church. And I think he's sleeping with her. And what do you think I should do? And here's what I said, Derek. 30 years old, 9 months into ministry, and I
Hmm.
said, I think you should call somebody else because I'm not sure I have the wisdom or the stature to counsel you. Now, again, I'm discounting myself,
Right.
but this is what I told her. I said, I think you should go. She says, well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm get some men, some deacons from the church, and we'll just go over to the house, we'll ring the doorbell and confront him and see what
Yeah,
happens.
that would work.
I said, I think that's a great idea. I think that's wisdom. If it were me, that's what I would do. But please understand, I'm speaking from a level of inexperience here, so you make your own decision.
Yep.
And she did. And he comes out. They're all in a state of being unclothed. She answers the door. He comes out pulling up his pants with his shirt off.
Wow.
So she takes it to the overseers in the denomination, and they scold her and tell her she should not have put her man's business out for the whole church,
Oh my
and that if she
God.
was better at sex and keeping him happy in bed at home, he wouldn't be looking for it somewhere else. And she's the one that got disciplined and chastised by the church, not him. He stayed in
Whew.
ministry. She was stripped of her ministry credentials. All right. I mean, that was my introduction. You think I would have wised up, man? Hey, babe.
Let me tell you, this is a true story that happened to us, right? That I was in a Word of Faith church and I was an associate pastor there, and we were taught to dream big, They said it doesn't cost anything to dream.
Mm,
So they said, go out to the new car lots and look at the cars.
right.
Go out to the open houses and look at the houses. So, so my wife and I, we go out and we look at the open houses and we find this house in a gated community, and it's beautiful. It's like 4,000 square feet. It was just, it was a custom home.
Yeah. Nice.
And, so we put in an application and we got the house. And I remember we invited the pastor and his wife to come out, and we wanted them to come out and bless the house,
Mhm.
walk around the house and, anoint it with oil and, bless the house.
Mm.
Do you know, I shit you not, they didn't get out of the car. They looked at the house and they were like, and their response was essentially that you shouldn't try to outrun your man or woman of God. And so at that point, that was an eye opener to me, because we were always taught, when your man or woman of God goes up, you go up, like Elijah and Elisha, right?
Oh yeah, I heard that teaching. Yeah.
That you get, you get the double portion when your man of God goes up. And that wasn't how it was received. It was like, you guys are biting off more than you can chew. You're trying to grandstand. And we would have, like my wife, she had a catering business and she used to love to cook for people.
Yeah.
And so after church on Sunday, we'd invite everybody over to the house. And the pastor and his wife and their kids, they wouldn't come. They wouldn't come
But see,
because
let me just interject, Derek. This is the paradox, or well, I don't know, clusterfuck that I'm talking about. Dream big, brother. Put your faith out there. Oh no, now you're grandstanding.
yeah,
Anyway, so he wouldn't come. He wouldn't
no,
come.
it wouldn't come. And so like what I'm getting at is that basically religion, even once I mean, like, okay, you're completely on the Kool-Aid.
Hmm.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid, but you find something that allows you to reconstruct.
Right.
And so you find a bit of yourself and you
Right.
say, I'm going to apply this.
Right.
And religion will go after you for that. It will try to further deconstruct you. Listen, I'm going to tell you something, man. That religion tried to tell me that my career, that I was wrong for pursuing that. That religion tried to tell me that me and my wife's relationship was outside of the will of God. That man, I'll tell you this, like, eventually this church, we got the left-footed fellowship,
Mhm.
which, that's the opposite of the right hand of
Right hand
fellowship,
of fellowship.
right?
Yeah, I know.
So we got the left-footed fellowship, and that there was a young lady who was one of the greeters at the church, and she went to the leadership and said, listen, I don't think that this is really working out for me anymore. I think I need to move on. And do you know what they told this young lady? At that time, we had just found out that my second to youngest son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Mm.
They told her, you don't want to let happen to your family what happened to brother and sister Day with their child. They actually said that. And I'm almost tempted. I'm almost tempted to call these folks out by name.
I wouldn't blame
You
you if you
know,
did.
just, because yeah, but I'm not a shitty person. I'm not. I'm gonna let them hide in their darkness. But the reality is that we had to reconstruct from that,
Yeah, of course.
right? Because they were trying to deconstruct us further because we had found a piece of ourselves, and we said, okay, let's build on this. And they were like, oh, no, 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 because this is y'all listen, everybody that's watching, that's listening, hear what Aaron and I are saying, because what'll happen is you will go out and begin the reconstruction, and you will find the missing pieces
Mm,
of yourself,
yep.
and you will begin to apply those missing pieces like a jigsaw puzzle or a Jenga tower or a Lego set, and you'll begin to apply these things to yourself, and you begin to think, holy fuck, this makes more sense.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
what will happen, and I'll tell you, this is how you'll know that you're on the right path, because somebody from religion will come and tell you that
Come on, man.
what you're building up is not according to the will of God. That's how you're going to know. Y'all hear me? You're going to know that you are actually in the will of God when someone tells you that you're not in the will of God. And
Derek, that is so true. Say that again, man. People need to hear that
listen,
because that is so true. That's how you know you're doing it right.
you know that you're doing it right when when religious people tell you that you're outside of the will of God. You know that if there is a will of God, that you are in it. I mean, that you have hit the fucking bullseye. That's how you know. Because I'm going to tell you, man, religion wants to tear you down. And again, in the context of this discussion, religion wants to deconstruct you. It never wants you. Oh my God. Listen, if you look at the person of Jesus, Yeshua,
Mm.
that every time he went around and he dealt with people, his whole paradigm was making people whole, making things right,
Yeah.
making the crooked places straight. It was never about tearing anyone down. So if whatever it is that you're involved in, that it causes you to tear something apart in yourself, to break something down in yourself, to deny something in yourself, then that is not, God damn it, that is not God. I'll take a drink now.
I'm gonna let you take a drink. I'm gonna let that sink in. I'm not gonna comment.
Dirty motherfuckers. Sorry, man.
No, it is. It is. It is. It is. Yeah, I mean, you said it all right there. But I think that's a good point, and I want people to get that. When they tell you you're doing it wrong, that's a good sign that you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And I can hear people, well, that's just self. That's just self-aggrandizing. That's you said it exactly right, Derek. Jesus said, lose yourself. That's not what he said.
No.
He said, if you lose your life in this world. So if we think about the world, not as an evil place, but if we think about world, the word there is cosmos, and the word in the Greek just means an orderly arrangement. And I got news for people. If you go look at John's gospel, which is where John's the one that usually is really hard about the world, he's talking about the Jewish world.
Right.
He's talking about the religious world. It's very clear once you see that. Go back and read the gospels. He's talking about the religious world.
Yep.
So here's what I did. I did this. Jesus said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, the whole orderly arrangement, but lose his soul? And so here's this is my thing, man. This is, if I have a message right now for people, this is my message. I believe life is lived most effectively from the inside out.
Boom.
The inside out means that I connect with my soul, and connecting with my soul means I connect with my passions, I connect with my desires, I connect with what inspires me, I connect with what gives me pleasure. God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and the word Eden means pleasure,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so I know this scares religious people because they think, oh, if you tell them that, they're just going to go off and, well, and they'll always pick the far end of the spectrum. Well, what if you tell a serial murderer that? Or what if you tell a child molester that? Listen, a serial murderer is not happy.
No.
A child molester is not happy, right?
Right.
So what I have found is that what pleases me is not harmful to me or other people.
Exactly.
If it is harmful, then I'm operating at a lower level, trying to heal my pain.
Come on, man.
What's really happening is I'm trying. So the person who becomes an alcoholic, the person who becomes a drug addict, listen, I know what I'm talking about here because I'm professionally trained in this and I deal with this all day long. They are trying to get away from their pain. And if you can heal the pain and give them a sense of wholeness and take away the shame and give them a sense of dignity and a sense of self-worth, then they don't want to drink. They don't want to escape reality. The reason they want to escape reality is because they don't have a life worth living right now, and they don't have a sense of self and an emotional place where they want to be.
Yep.
And
Listen.
so let me finish my point, and just real quick, Derek. So living from the inside out, connecting with your soul, connecting with who you really are, connecting with your highest and best self, right? And then finding ways to express that in the world. But what Jesus is saying here is if you conform to the orderly arrangement of this religious world, which is what I did. Oh, that desire must be wrong. That desire for that big house. Derek, you're just showboating. That's the orderly arrangement. And you had a choice. You could have said, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I'm probably wrong. You're probably right. So now I conform to the orderly arrangement. Honey, we better not buy that house.
Right.
And what happened? You lost your soul.
I mean,
Jesus, from a religious perspective, I'm sorry, Derek, but from a religious perspective, if Jesus wouldn't save you, if there was nothing worth saving.
Right.
And what religion tells you is you're rotten to the core, you're trash on a trash heap, you're a pile of dung that needs to be covered in the blood of Jesus. God can't even relate to you. He has to relate to you through the blood of his son or through his son, which tells me there was not a goddamn thing worth saving in you. So then shut your mouth about salvation, because if you're talking about salvation, then there's something worth conserving, there's something worth saving, there's something worth building up. You can't have it both ways. And religion tries to have it both ways because they want to control you, they want to beat you down.
Yep. That brother, shoot. Let me say this, and I'm going to say something really controversial, and I'm not going to back away from it.
That's a first.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like,
that's
for real.
For us.
You are God. I am God. When I began to see myself as divinity, I began to see myself in a way that I will not do wrong. Will I make mistakes? Absolutely, because there is a human component of me. And I understand that the human component makes mistakes. But I am God. And that means that what I do will avoid harm at any cost. Now, you and I talked in a talk before, the difference between hurt and harm. And for those of you who are watching, I urge you to go back and watch that. Look it up, find it. You know, Derek and Aaron talking about hurt versus harm. Look it up and watch it, right? Because here's the thing. I may say something that may hurt your feelings. That's like if you call me an asshole, that may hurt my feelings.
Right.
But it doesn't take away from my ability to earn. It doesn't take away from my security. It doesn't take away from my financial stability. It hasn't affected me in any meaningful way other than that hurt my feelings.
Right.
There are things that are said that will hurt. And let me give you an example, an illustration. Because I was in the military and I was involved in Spec Ops. And in Spec Ops, you learn two things, right? You learn how to damage the human body and also how to treat the human body when it's damaged.
Yeah.
So if I hurt you by breaking your arm,
Hmm.
I have done harm to you.
Right.
But if I set your broken bone, this may hurt you,
Oh,
but in the long run, it's going to help you.
brilliant.
I've dealt with the same, essentially the same part, the same component, but I've dealt with it in two different ways. One has caused harm. If I throw a trap to your punch that causes your forearm to break, then I've harmed you. I have caused you irreparable harm because, yes, we can set that bone, but it's never going to be the same. Hear me
Right.
on that.
Right.
But I can find someone who has been damaged in that way, and I can set the bone and cause them to heal. It's a
Right.
big difference. Now, that I say to say that in this process of reconstruction, there are things that people like Aaron, people like myself, people like Ben Urban, people like Kyle Butler, people like Vanessa Brooks, people are going to say, or my sister Sandra, people are going to say things that when you hear it, you're going to be like, oh, God, that hurts.
Right.
But when you get past the hurt and you begin to evaluate what is actually being said, you begin the reconstruction process. You begin to reclaim
Right.
the parts of you that have been taken away and add them back to yourself to make you whole. And that, if I can't say anything else,
Yeah.
if there is a will of God, as Christian preachers and teachers are wont to say, if there is a will of God, it's that you are whole,
Yes.
that you are complete, that there is nothing in you broken, nothing in you lacking, nothing in you in doubt, nothing in you uncertain. And understand that, again, that the whole purpose of religion, Chris Kratzer,
Uh-huh.
is to deconstruct you, to break you down to the point where you are uncertain of yourself.
Right.
Because now, when you are uncertain of yourself, you divest yourself of any possibility of understanding your godhood, of understanding your divinity, and understanding your purpose, your place, and your position in this world. And you will begin to accept things that you would never,
Mhm.
ever have accepted.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm sorry, man. I'm
No, it's
just,
okay. No, it's okay. I was thinking about, you said, if there is a will of God, but think about this. I mean, I believe there's a creator. I believe in God,
yep,
shocker to people.
me too.
But but if God made you unique, if he made each one of us a masterpiece, and you go around acting like you're less than, then wouldn't God want to intervene somehow? Or if God is speaking, or if God is willing, and I don't mean is he willing, I mean God is willing something. He's got an intention out in the universe. Wouldn't it be for you to discover who you are?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be for you to stop believing the lies that are deconstructing you, the lies that are stealing from you, the lies that are killing you,
Yep.
so that you can actually know who you are? You ever been around somebody, Derek, that they were brilliant, but they didn't believe it?
Mm-hmm.
And they would relate to people and let people take advantage of them, and relate to people like they were less than, when in fact maybe in certain scenarios they were more than. In other words, they might play dumb to fit in, when in actuality, if you did an IQ test, their IQ is higher than the people they're around. But they're playing dumb because they don't know that they're smart.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the world does this to us, man. And so this is where, like, as long as the world, religion, politics, I mean, there is a power game out there, and people want power by taking it away from you sometimes. And if you give it up, and the whole religious thing is based on give up your power, give up your sovereignty, give your energy, give your devotion to this, give and what do you gain? What do you gain from it? What do you get from it? How does it benefit you? And if you start thinking about how it benefits you, oh brother, that's selfish, you know, and that it's
Listen,
such a
I
crazy
want
line
to
of
I want to
thinking.
say something to everybody that's watching, right? Because life is a high stakes poker game.
Mm,
You sit down at with table stakes, and you play the hands that are dealt you.
yeah.
But what I'm going to tell you is learn to call the fucking bluff.
Come on, man.
Because here's the thing. If somebody's holding 4 aces, then they got you. They got you. That you know, or let's say they have a straight flush. They
Yeah.
got you, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something. Religion, at the very best, is holding a pair of deuces. At the very best. But it's trying to bluff you as if it has a full house.
Dang.
And you have to learn to call that bluff.
Yeah.
Because listen, I'm going to tell you something, and this is where I'm going to stop. Is like, religion is bullshit, and all it has, listen, it's at the table, it's ponied up with table stakes, and the stakes are your soul. That's the stakes. That's what's being played for. And if you are playing for your soul, you better be ready to call that motherfucker. Because if you go out on a bluff, that means you got, listen, there was something that we learned in the military. They said, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And that's, my friends, is exactly what religion does. That's what Christianity, that's what Islam, that's what Hinduism, that's what Zoroastrianism, Mormonism, what else? Shintoism, Buddhism, I don't care. This is religion. This is what it does. Yeah. It's there to try to beat you with the bluff. And you have to be confident. See, here's the thing. When you're deconstructed, your confidence is down here.
Yes.
But the more you reconstruct, the more your confidence level rises, the more your vibration rises, the more your consciousness rises. And when that happens, you will not be dazzled, or you will not be baffled by bullshit. That if it's not real brilliance, you won't be moved. And I'm gonna shut up at that point.
Yeah, I'll just build on that a little bit from a psychological perspective. Here's what's going on. If you start to fly,
come on.
If you start to fly, and you're with a flock of birds that hasn't learned to fly yet, or doesn't believe they can fly, your freedom is a living example to them of what they can become, but at the same time, a living example to them of what they are not yet. And that is threatening. So sometimes the reason people bluff you is not just because they want to take power away from you. And this goes back to what you said, Derek, about it's been a long week, everybody. It's been a long day.
Yeah, that's what happens when we get over 52, man.
I know, and I'm pushing that number. This is what you were saying when you were talking about, well, anyway, they'll try to bluff you, not because necessarily they just want the pot in the middle, but because your advancement, your productivity, and your freedom is an indictment to them
Yeah.
of what they could be but have not yet become. And it's threatening to them. So at a psychological level, what's happening is, well, he's doing that, she's doing that. Why aren't I doing that? Well, there can't be something wrong with me. Well, maybe there is something wrong with, no, there's got to be something wrong with them. And you brought up, different. I was thinking about The Art of War. I read that years ago, so I may get this
Yeah.
totally wrong. But
Great book, by the way.
I think Sun Tzu said, when you're weak, present yourself as strong, and when you're strong, present yourself as weak.
Yep.
And so sometimes the people are coming on so strong, telling you that you're wrong, and telling you, yo, that's what it was. That's what it was. When religious people tell you that you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. That's the bluff. But they're bluffing because you are tapping into a level that they know they themselves are not tapping into, and it's threatening to them.
Yep.
And so out of their own sense of self-preservation, out of preserving their own self-concept,
And
out of preserving their
insecurity.
own comfort zone,
And insecurity.
It's all insecurity.
Yep.
It's all insecurity. They are presenting themselves as strong to you when you're really weak, or when they're really weak. I'm not you. They're presenting themselves as strong to you when they themselves are the ones that are really weak.
Yep. Dude, this was really an eye opener for me because
Was for me too.
I've always thought I'm deconstructing religion. I mean, literally, I wrote a book called Deconstructing Religion, literally.
Sure.
But the reality is that religion deconstructed me. And so the whole point of deconstructing religion was not a matter of me deconstructing religion. It was reconstructing me.
Exactly.
It was finding me, finding myself.
Yeah.
And putting the pieces, man. I know people talk about being on the potter's wheel, and that the potter can the clay say to the potter what the potter should do with, and I'm like, let me say this, that if we are truly the image and likeness of God, then that means that in this three-dimensional space that we experience life in, that we are God.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. We are the creators of our lives, of our destinies, of we're the masters of our own universe. And that when we take the it's like going back to the beginning and finding out where were we at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And you're reverse engineering all that you know about yourself back to the beginning.
Mm.
And when you get to the point where mankind was never closer to God than at the point mankind was created.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get back to that point, you get back to the original intent. You get back to what you were created to be. You get back to what you really are. And that is the reconstruction. Aaron, I'm gonna tell you something, man. This one here blessed me, because I understand now that the whole idea is to get me back to what I was created as.
Exactly. Exactly.
Damn.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? So to Chris Kratzer, I don't know if he'll watch this. Maybe I'll tag him on it. But
Yep. Yeah, I'm
brother,
gonna tag him on this. I'm
I
gonna tell
hope I have the right person. Wouldn't that be bad if I had the wrong person on Facebook?
no, you know what? Well, you know what?
I'm sure.
If
I'm
it-
sure.
if it's not Chris Kretzer, then then we'll find out who it is, and we'll go back and we'll correct this in a later episode. But the important thing is for everybody that's listening is understand that as you what religion teaches you is deconstruction is not really deconstruction at all. You're really reconstructing back to what your original created intent was.
Hey, how about this? Did you guys ever do this one? I'm gonna go into the enemy's camp and take back what he stole from me.
Oh God, yes.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of what we're doing.
Yep.
We're gonna go into the enemy's camp and take back the self and and all the dignity and all the goodness and all the wonderfulness of who you are as a human being, made in the image of God.
Yep. Dude, that's it.
That
That's
religion stole from you.
that's a good place to stop it. You nothing else needs to be said. But once again, my brother, namaste. You're just the shit, man. I so look forward to Fridays, man.
Derek, I love you, man. I love you. I hope people don't get tired of us like just loving on each other at the end. But brother, I just got to tell you, man, it's like you told me last week or something. It's like we came down the same birth canal or something.
Yeah, man. It's like I love you like we slid down the same canal, man.
Exactly. Same here, man. I love you. I believe in you. I look forward to this time. I love everybody that spends the time with us. Thank you for
Yes,
taking the time
indeed.
to watch.
Love
share it
you
with
all.
us. Appreciate you so much.
Right on. All right, brother. Have a great weekend.
Right on, bro.
And I'm gonna go and finish the scotch. And I think I may actually couple this with a cigar since I have enough left here.
Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds
yeah.
good.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to the time when we could get together, man. We're gonna do one of these lives together, and we're gonna have
Won't that be cool?
booze and cigars and everything. Yeah.
Maybe we can burn our masks while we're doing it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be off the fucking chain.
Right on, brother. Love you.
All right, love you too, man.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks everyone. Love y'all.